Greetings, Israel. DFG. Hope you guys are hope you had a good week. I guess that's the right way to introduce this message tonight. We're going to be reviewing our Bible study message from this past Wednesday night. If you were able to join us, then you remember we were teaching on Enoch, the messenger, the translated one. We taught from chapter 7, and we were blessed, brothers and sisters. Abiyah opened the door to reveal to us maybe some secret things there that we know for a fact the heathens hid it from us, when they hid the Apocrypha books, hundreds of years ago, if not longer. But Abiyah said in the last days, Yahuah, that, as was spoken to the prophet Daniel, that he would unseal those books, that those hidden treasures, will be revealed to us in the last days. And of course, you can find that in the book of Daniel, chapter 12. You read right from verses 1 all the way down through verses 1 through 4, then you'll hear that where he tells Daniel, to seal up the books until the time of the end, and that our knowledge would be increased. So, hopefully you have your hammer and your saw, carpenters, because we want to build, right? We want to build a foundation of truth that can sustain ourselves, and at the same time be able to help our other brothers and sisters of Israel as Abiyah starts to open up their eyes in these last days. There's so many things. And this is what I'll say this too to you, my brothers and sisters. There's a lot of folk who don't believe that we're in the end times right now. They're looking at all the building going on all around them. They look at all of the, the plans that the country has for 2030 and 2040, and how China and Russia and the rest of the BRIC countries are coming together, and they can come up with a whole new currency, a whole new world, even a whole new world order. And, when they hear all that, or we hear all that, it's easy to say, hey, everything looks pretty normal. And that's understandable that you would think that. But in all reality, that is part of the deception, my brothers and sisters. To keep you occupied on something else. Getting your attention, getting your attention focused on something else so that you don't actually see what's happening right in front of your eyes. When you look at what they're doing with AI and all of that, the cloning and stuff that they're doing right now, brothers and sisters, it's obvious whatever they have planned, for the future is surely not anything that we've seen in our past, at least in the recent past. But that's where the book of Enoch comes into play, brothers and sisters, because Enoch reveals things that were happening around the time prior to Noah's time, or Abiyah, Yahuah, destroying the whole earth through the flood. And if you know anything about that, you go back in Genesis, I want to say chapter 6, but you can read it in Jasher and these other books, Enoch, for example. You would recognize that at that time, there were very intelligent people on the earth. All types of technology. You can look at the hieroglyphs that you'll find in different caves. They find all over this flat earth, everywhere, where there are caves and canyons, pyramids. And they go in and look at the drawings and the writings, and when they look at that writing, you see everything from light bulbs to spaceships to atom bombs, simulations, of course. All kind of technology. But then if you go back and you start looking at, what do they call that, stone gate or stone wall or something like that, and you see these big old monuments and things that that without technology, there's no way man built that without the help of other sources. And when I mean the help of other sources, I'm talking about the help of the falling ones, the watchers, that Enoch talks about. You heard, again, the book of Genesis talks about it. Jasher talks about it. But unfortunately for us, we were told that these were not, what they would say canonized books, and that these books, were written by unknown authors who were just, I guess had nothing better to do with their time other than write the history of the world. A history that, quite frankly, could be pretty easily validated. How strange. No, Enoch got his message from Abba Yahuah. If you know the story of Enoch, he was translated. He was one of two men who never died, who never saw death. The first one was Enoch. The second one was Elijah, the prophet. So we were studying in Enoch, and we're studying in Enoch because, like back in that time prior to the flood, everything is repeating itself again. And we shouldn't think that very strange, because Solomon in Ecclesiasticus told us 1:9, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that has been, was, is, and everything that is has been. I mean, he literally says nothing new under the sun. As it was then, so it'll be now. As it was in the beginning, so will it be in the end. And that's where we are today. We're in the end. Of course, most of our people, again, they're distracted intentionally, unbeknownst to them. Some of our people, are uncomfortable with the thought that this world could end because they fear what comes after this life. And that in itself is an indictment for all those who feel that way. Because either you believe nothing is going to come, so there's nothing to fear, or you believe there will be a judgment after coming. And that's everything to fear. But according to our book, there's going to be a judgment. According to our book, there's going to be a reckoning for all the evil that has been done throughout time to all the innocent people out there, babies included. Yah's going to judge them. He's going to judge it, he's going to judge them, and he's going to judge their seed. Enoch revealed to us that some of the seed that Abba Yah is going to judge are not of man. Not if you consider that the seed or the child comes out of the man before it, is cultivated in the womb. The seed starts with the father, and then it makes its way onto life through the mother, of course. But our book says that everyone that's on the earth didn't start off with a human. Somebody say human. Our book teaches us that some of these beings that are among us are, quite frankly, not human at all. They're just being passed off as humans. They're flesh and blood, but unlike us, they do not have a spirit. It's all revealed right here in the book, brothers and sisters. And that's what we're going to be exploring. That's what we explored on our Bible study. And that's why it is so important that we give attention to these things, brothers and sisters. Redeeming the time, because the days are evil. And yes, it does look, and depending on what you're looking for, what you're hoping for, yes, it does look as though this is going to continue on. Nothing is about to happen. Not for generations, at least. But then again, when you start looking at wars and rumors of wars, famine, diseases, AI replacing men through cloning, replacing jobs through cloning, or through artificial intelligence, I'm sorry. These what do they call this? These surreal universes that they're pushing our people into. Metaverse. These alternate realities. So that when everything is horrific, our people can go in the caves and just hide and pretend like everything is all right until it's not. The reason we're, again, studying in these books, because our Abba Yah Father said that in the last days he would warn the earth through signs and wonders. He said that the wise would understand what was going on. He said that knowledge would be increased, that men would be going to and fro. Again, Daniel chapter 12. He said, but the wise, again, would understand what's happening. But he said, those who are not wise, he used the word wicked. He said they would continue on as nothing is happening, and they would not understand. Therefore, they would be caught off guard, unprepared, and doomed to eternal, for lack of a better word, misery, suffering. Matter of fact, Daniel called it everlasting shame and contempt. Again, Daniel chapter 12. Look that up when you get a chance. So why are we here tonight? Why are we here today? Because we want to wake up our people. We are on our assignment from Abba Yah to wake up our people. And there are some of our people who deserve to wake up. They love Abba Yah. But like so many of us, they were taught, to trust another Savior. One who couldn't save himself, I might add. And they were told that somehow that Savior would die and rise again and replace a Creator that's eternal, or stand in place of a Creator that's eternal. Make it make sense. Why would a sovereign Elohim need help? Why would an almighty Creator who created you and I need help? In other words, we were so bad that we needed to they had to take us and put us into, what do they call those schools when the kids are acting up? I forgot the name of it, if you're in America. But these are for the wayward children. They would put them in those kind of schools so that, they wouldn't disrupt the other kids from learning. So Abba Yah had to reinvent himself because he wasn't capable of managing what he created. So he had to come up with another entity like unto himself, but not himself, as they want to teach us. And he would be the answer to the problems, right? So the last 2,000 years, we haven't had any problems on this earth. Have the problem been solved? Because that's what we were taught. Jesus would fix it. Just so you know who I'm talking about. But they say Buddha and Krishna and Amon-Ra and Tammuz and Semiramis, Apollo, Thor. We can go on and on and on. All created, or better said, all worshipped by men who knew not our Creator. They knew of our Creator, but they had no relationship with our Creator because our Creator was strictly working with a bloodline, Israel. And out of envy and jealousy, just like they do now in cloning, maybe cloning isn't about envy and jealousy, but that behavior is has always been around. So they clone their own gods and made their own religions and temples and synagogues and mosques and what have you, to compete against Abba Yah in their ignorance. And he tolerated them, just like when they were building the Tower of Babel. He tolerated them. He let them get so high. And then when they got high enough, if you go back to the book of Jasher, 18:19, he picked them off like little ants. There's only one sovereign Elohim, brothers and sisters. And we're fortunate enough as Israel to be the people he chose to love. But unfortunately, many of us didn't love him back. We let the heathens tempt us away with their vanity and their, and their gods who rewards evil and wickedness and blood. It looked like fun to many of our ancestors. And what appeared to be fun turned out to be deadly, to the place that we're still right now being judged for their behavior. I'm talking about the curses. Deuteronomy 28 talks about it. And in these days and times that we're in right now, if we don't wake up, talking about those of us who really love Yahuah, those of us who know he is a singular Elohim, if we don't wake up and start preparing, and be prepared, I'm afraid that, well, let's just call it what the book says. 2/3 of us are going to perish. I don't know about you, but I want to be in the 1/3. And I know to be in that 1/3, I have to be awake. I have to be alert. I have to be assertive. I have to be dedicated. I have to be committed. I have to do what David said in Psalms, 1. That those who love Elohim, they will meditate upon his Torah day and night. And then David said it would be what? Like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that their leaf would never wither, right? And whatever they set their hand to do, what he said. And their season would prosper. But then again, Moses shared that with us in the Torah in Deuteronomy 28, from 1 to 14. If we obeyed Abiyah's Torah, we would be blessed. Our children would be, our health would be, and everything we set our hands to would be. But they gave us a substitute, religious gods. And as you can see right now, if you're Israel, and you want to be honest about it, as a nation of people, I'm not talking about anomalies or exception here or there. I'm talking about as a people. We are absolutely losing. And it's not because we're not capable. It's not because they're more intelligent than we are, or stronger than we are, or anything more than we are. Our problem lies right down at the root core. Our issue is a root cause issue, and that root cause is that where they serve their Elohim, who will bless them with material, but he's going to take from them too. He takes their soul away. They didn't have a spirit anyway, but he took their souls. That's why they're not only they're spiritless, many of them, they're soulless. That's why they can do some of the vicious, wicked things we've read about them doing. You guys remember this book, right? Without Sanctuary? The photograph that they took of lynching our people here in the Americas in the 20th century, not long ago. This book called Medical Apartheid. If we read this book and the things that happened to our people in this book on those plantations, out in the Caribbean and places in Africa or wherever else we were, Tanzania, right? Tasmania. And what they did, extinct a whole nation of people. The heathens that some of our people, even today, still can't get out of their mind, that we should be gentle with them. We should be kind to them. We should be accepting of them. But if we truly, truly understood what soullessness looked like, brothers and sisters, I don't think any of us would be in rebellion against Abiyah, not Israel. But as the book told us, they would come, what? Wolves in sheep's clothing. They would come, as your friend. They would come to you in peace, as an ally. Just long enough to find out what your weaknesses are, exploit it, and then make you human cargo. And that's what they did. And they're still doing it. Look at the prison systems. Look at the judicial system. They're still doing it. Look at the living conditions. Again, where is Jesus in all of this? Oh, because they rebelled against Jesus. Okay, I thought you said Jesus was the way. I thought you said that the people were so poor and their attitude was so poor towards Abiyah, he had to send a savior for them. So what good is the savior if he ain't saving? Nothing changed, is what I'm saying. Nothing has changed. Progressively worse. For we were warned that that's what happened. That is what would happen. Let's go take a quick look at that right fast, brothers and sisters. Just a quick little journey. And we did this in the Bible study. As a matter of fact, we prayed about this. This was a part of our prayer. in our last Wednesday night Bible study. But go over to Daniel 12 with me, if you don't mind. And I'm going to read at verse 1. And I'm going to skip around, and then we're going back and we're going to get into to the review. Daniel chapter 12. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which stands up for your children, to stand up for the children of your people, talking about Israel, us. And there shall be a time of trouble. That's end time. In essence, when you say a time of trouble, that's a prelude to the end of the world. Just so you know. A time of trouble such as was never since there was a nation, even to that same time. Say, if this is going to be the worst time in the history of mankind. And he said, and at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the cipher. Written in the cipher means that we have obeyed Abiyah's Torah, we're keeping his laws, we're keeping his commandments, we're not in any kind of abominational behaviors at all, assembled together as a nation recovering, awaiting his return. That's how you get written in the book. You keep the Torah. Because if you're not keeping the Torah, you got to go back to what Proverbs 28:9 says. And it reads real clear. If you do not keep the Torah, your prayers before Abiyah is considered an abomination, brothers and sisters. I'm not saying that. That is what's written in your Bible. Go look it up yourself. Proverbs 28:9 says, those who hear Abiyah, or those who hear but do not obey Abiyah's Torah, their prayers before Abiyah is an abomination. I think I said that pretty much correctly. It's right there. And yet they tell our people, oh, you can pray in Jesus' name, or you pray in Yahushua's name, or pray in the name of Buddha, Kala, or Allah, or whomever. Well, somebody's lying. And I don't know about you, brothers and sisters, but I think I would trust Solomon over any man, because we know, according to the book, Solomon was the wisest man that ever walked this earth. He got his wisdom from Abiyah. That's why he was able to write all the Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. Probably show some other writings out there too. I know he was speaking in Second Chronicles, chapter 7. That's Solomon says, Yah's people who are called by his name, they would humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways and seek Yah's face. And Yah would forgive them their sin, forgive our sins and heal our land. That's Solomon talking. It's Yahuah telling it to Solomon. How to pray and what matters when you pray. What's your qualifications to pray, better said. What to pray and how do you qualify to pray to our Abiyah, to Yahuah. You qualify to pray to Yahuah by obeying his Torah. If you're in rebellion against his Torah, in essence, violating the Torah, not keeping the Torah, the law, statutes, and commandments that you can keep, then he's saying you're going to be rejected. That's what Solomon is saying. Your prayers are being rejected. And sooner or later, it's going to be reprobated. Even in Proverbs 1, what did Solomon say? That because we rejected the knowledge of the Torah, Abiyah's knowledge, he said in the time of trouble, like Daniel's talking about here, this is Proverbs chapter 1, start about verse 21 on down. He said, because we rejected Abiyah's Torah, did what we wanted to do. He said, in our times of trouble, as Daniel is saying here, Abiyah was going to laugh at some of us. Laugh at us. In other words, like someone despise you in spite of you, laugh in your face when something is happening to you. Instead of them responding to assist you, they're going to laugh and walk away, or they laugh and walk away. Again, that's why we studied. That's why we have the Bible studies, brothers and sisters, because no one is going to teach us that in these churches. These religions are not going to teach you this. If they were, we would already have known this. I spent all of my young adult life in those churches. I know exactly what they're not teaching in there. But that's okay. That's why we're here, right? This is our opportunity to learn and teach our children the truth without interference from wolves in sheep's clothing, liars, teaching for money's sake, profit to enrich themselves at the expense of our Yah's chosen. But let's continue on. He says, as in those names who will be found written in the Torah, okay? And in verse 2, and many of them that sleep in the dust shall awake, some to everlasting life, that the 1/3 of us, that Zechariah 13 and 8 talks about, who get tried through the fire, and we found, we made it, we passed the tests, whatever those tests might be. We were obedient. Even if it cost us things we didn't want to lose, we still were obedient. Even if everybody turned against us, we stayed the course. One of our sisters, Sister Smith, was saying that even in her small town, they don't want to hear anything she has to say when she starts talking about Yahuah and Israel. They want to talk about Jesus. And that's our people. You say something against Jesus, like somebody said something about your mama. They're ready to fight. But they never take the time to see the origins of where Jesus came from. I'm talking about real study origins. He's a concept out of Rome who was some of the most pagan people and still are on this earth. And brutal, murderous, I might add. A history of it. But again, I digress. Some to everlasting life, and then some to shame and everlasting contempt. Can you imagine shame forever? A shame that you can never rid yourself of? Can you imagine at the end of this life, having it as hard as we've had it as a people, only to come back to life and go into everlasting shame and contempt? I mean, that's a reality. I can understand why any of our brothers and sisters would want this. For yourself or for your children. And if you're not sure about your faith, or not sure about your belief, well, why don't you just take the approach that I'm just going to ensure, if it is real, that we are prepared. And how will I do that? I'm going to follow along. I'm going to open up my Torah. I'm going to study along. I'm going to learn, and I'm going to pass it on to my children. The worst case scenario, they'll have it if they don't need it. Best case scenario, they had it and they needed it. Now, that sounds pretty practical and logical to me. And I'm not, it doesn't take, in my mind, it doesn't take a genius to conclude that, given the alternative. Do nothing, contempt. Do something, eternal life. In a place that we can't imagine the beauty. According to Isaiah, what is that, 64 and 65 and 3, 65 and 4. Eyes have not seen, neither has entered into the heart of a man the things that Abba has prepared for those who love him, talking about the 1/3, those who are going to come back to everlasting life. Think about it, my sisters. Think about the beauty, the harmony, the love. All the things that should really matter that we've long ago lost touch with because of all the wickedness abounding and the temptations that draws us into that. And we're going to talk about that in a moment, sorcery. But that said, let's go a little bit farther here. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the sky, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. In our assembly of people in the Bible study, we're getting to know each other by sound, by voice, and by name, and to some degree correspondence. And there's another sister, Sister Hatton, and I was speaking on yesterday, because we do fellowship. This is a brother who actually takes his responsibility as a servant leader, called out by Abba Yah. Seriously, I take it serious. Like for real. Not fake, not making it up. How you say, what's that old term they used to use out in the world? Fake it till you make it? No. I sincerely do. believe the truth. And I sincerely do love my people, even the rebellious ones. But she and I were speaking on yesterday, and she was talking. In fact, she's texted today, but we were talking yesterday about going out and witnessing and having that fire, for the truth, talking to Israel, not the strangers or the heathens. That's not for us to do. If they're going to find their way to the Most High, they need to get out of their paganism and out of their idolatry and get out of their self-centeredness and humble themselves and pray and ask Abba to show them mercy. And maybe a few of them will get in. Well, some will get in, according to the book, some going to get in. As servants. Isaiah 14:1 talks about that. But here, verse 3 says, "And the wise shall shine as the brightness of the sky, and they that turn many to righteousness as stars forever and ever." And that's what I was saying about Sister Haddon. She was saying that she was out there witnessing the two brothers. Even today, she shared that. And it's a beautiful thing for our sisters to be witnessing. You follow me? Because they have that passion, that zeal. Some of well, they should be there. Well, leave them alone. If you're not going to do it, leave them alone. Let them. If they're doing it and you're not doing it, don't criticize them. And them doing it doesn't get in the way with us doing it. I'm talking about the men of Israel. If they're here to help you, help us, then how can they help us by doing nothing? There's a place for them. Think about Judith. Think about Esther. Think about Abigail. Think about Deborah. Yeah, they didn't supplant the men, but they did have a purpose alongside of the men. And when I hear about these sisters with the zeal that's doing something, not the ones who talking about it and praying about it, but don't act on anything, but see those who are doing something and out there on fire and making it happen, Sister Warrior, you can always be with, the male version of yourself. Guys like ourselves. Me, Brother Adrian, Brother Mendez, Brother Sharif, Jonathan, William, Roderick. We're not afraid. Derek, Lamar. Oh, we're here. We're out here. And we're not cowards and we're not going anywhere. So dear sisters, you ladies who are fighting, and some of my brothers we haven't met yet, if I seen you in the comment section, I invite you to come out to the study so we can learn who you are, you learn who we are. So when the time comes, if Abba Yah will is for us to be a community together, then you know your brothers and your brothers know you. Sisters too. You're invited. But it goes on to say, "And they that shall be wise shall shine as the brightness of the expanse, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But you, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal up the book, even to the time of end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." Is knowledge not being increased right now, brothers and sisters? Is everybody not going all over the place? You can get to one part of this doggone earth to another part in sometimes less than 2 hours. And some of these supersonic, planes and things they have. They can fire missiles now from North Korea to the United States in less than in 30 minutes? To and fro. Knowledge increase. Look at the technology. Now are you beginning to see why we know we're at the end of man's time? Now you see why we're saying what we're saying? Do you realize this was written thousands of years ago, I might add? For some of you who weren't aware of that being in our Tanakh. Thousands of years ago it was written. Knowledge wasn't increasing the thousands of years. These people had horse and buggies for hundreds and hundreds of years. Think about it. But from 1950 to now, we went from not even knowing what a cell phone was now to being able to talk into our risk. And what's coming, you're not careful, it's going to turn you into something other than a human being. Israel. That's the knowledge increase that Daniel was warning us about. He said this would happen in the end. And then if you drop down a little bit, he said in verse 9, he says, and go your way, Daniel, and seal up, go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed until the end of time. Many shall be purified and made white and tried. Purified means that we're going to go through some things. You're going to have to fight for this faith. Like I told you about Sister Smith, feeling isolated, but she's still fighting. Many of us have gone through that. Dear sister, not by herself, but there are times you feel like you yourself. If you're standing for this truth, oh yeah, you're going to feel like you're standing by yourself. This truth comes with a price. Your own family members are going to start to turn on you. If you were with them in Christianity or Islam, whatever, and they say you say, no, I don't do Sunday worship, I keep the Shabbat now, I don't practice pagan holidays anymore, mom, uncle, cousin, brother, watch how they start to look at you. Watch how quick you're going to get cut off. But again, what price are you willing to pay for the truth? What is that, cognitive dissonance? Convenient lies for uncomfortable truth? I haven't talked about that in a minute. The truth comes at a price, brothers and sisters, but the reward is tremendous. When you weigh out, risk versus reward, again, you heard me mention a moment ago, we can't even imagine how phenomenal things are going to be when we leave here. And you let me tell it, I believe we're going to see some of it, those wonderful things while we're here. Surely if we see Abiyah with a ring of fire around us and all hell breaking loose everywhere and nothing is touching us, I think some of us are going to be pretty impressed. I think if we go into battle and there's 20 of us are going against 10,000 of them, and all of a sudden we realize they're running, and we try to figure out what they're running from, only to look behind us and see Michael and Gabriel, Ramiel, Penuel, Raphael, not Ramiel, Raphael, and others, they will be pretty impressed. Hear ye, Israel. We're in the end. Come out while there's still chance. While there's still time. Why do you think he has us here? Why are you there? Give yourself at least a fighting chance. This is not to scare you, by the way. Not to turn you off or run you away. We're here. We're here because we choose to be here. We're here because we're called to be here. So there's no need to run. Maybe it's time to stop. Reconsider what your beliefs are. Reconsider. Could you have possibly been misled with religion? All forms of it. Not just Christianity, but yes, Christianity. Let's pull this so we can get over there. He says, verse 10, many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly. And none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise will understand. So again, sisters and brothers, those of you who are saying, well, they're not listening to me, Brother DFG, maybe they don't understand. The book says that they would not listen. They wouldn't understand. It's not because you're not doing a good job of it. It's the fact that they love the God of this world. They love the God that they were taught through religion or whatever format. Or they don't love any God. They don't love anything. They love themselves. They become a God unto themselves. Maybe that's their problem. But in the end, after death, none of that's going to work for them. But for you, it's going to be totally different. Everlasting life. For them, everlasting shame and contempt. But that don't mean we don't try. That don't mean we don't extend to them a helping hand. I'm talking about Israel. I'm not talking about, going out of our way for no strangers and heathens. That's not our responsibility. But when it comes down to Israel, loving Israel, that is our responsibility. The 2/3 of us, we realize they're going to reject this truth. But they won't reject the truth because we didn't extend it to them. They'll reject the truth because they didn't want it. And that's a big difference between the two. You keep on your purpose, brothers and sisters. We'll keep on our purpose. What they decide to do, ultimately, is up to them. The wise, as he stated, those of us who know this is where we're heading to, we are in the end. Every indicator that you can imagine, these people have weaponry right now to do something in a moment's time and wipe almost all the population off the earth with their nuclear warheads. And it's only going to be a matter of time. So if one of these rogue groups, outlier groups, get one of those codes and crack one of those nuclear codes, and game on. And many of our people are going to be running out here, right in the nightclub, right in there, wherever they are, doing whatever they should, whatever they love doing, and they're going to get caught unprepared, just like in the days of Noah. Until they went into that ark, those people were doing their own thing. And then when it was too late and the rain came, the water rose, they cried out. Yah said, nope. When I wanted your attention, you wouldn't give it to me. Now you're looking for mine, I'm not giving it to you. You know what I'm saying? When some bad things happen to some people, brothers and sisters, they have brought that on themselves. They have no one to blame but themselves in this instance. But those of us who love Abba Yah, those of us who are seeking the truth and standing for Abba Yah's word, our destiny, our future is bright. And don't forget that. But you got to stay the course. Prepare, and be prepared. Well, let's go over to the book of Enoch, chapter 7. All right. Get your tubes ready. Here we go. All right. The book of Enoch, chapter 7. And it happened after the sons of men had multiplied in those days that daughters were born to them, elegant and beautiful. And I love that when it says elegant and beautiful, because the daughters of Zion, and they are elegant and beautiful. And I'm not saying that because I've got some, I don't know, whatever. It is just the truth. We all know men, if you want to tell the truth, let's not talk about heartbreaks and wicked women and rebelliousness and I don't need a man. I'm not talking about their actions and their behaviors. I'm talking about their natural beauty. We have the most beautiful women on this flat earth. There's no doubt about it. Full bodied, thin bodied, big top, low top, big out, small ends, but beautiful. But this would happen with their beauty. Check this out, brothers and sisters. Verse 2. And when the watchers, the sons of heaven, some would call them angels, beheld them, and they became enamored with them. They started lusting after them, saying to each other, come and let us select for ourselves a woman from the progeny of men. And progeny is another word, descendants of men. And let us beget children. They want to have sex with our daughters. And it's for all of those who think that somehow angels are all spirits. That is not true. See, you don't know that because, see, that was hidden in the Apocryphal books. Because if you were reading in the Apocryphal books, you will see those Satan, I guess it was Satan because they called his name Satan. But he manifested himself to Sarah, Abraham's wife, as an older man. He manifested himself to Isaac, Abraham's son, as a young man, handsome, beautiful man, I might add. He was able to clone himself to look like a man. And they do have that ability. These watchers were able to do that. And I'm sure our daughters probably looking at them. They were probably beautiful, handsome, strong, Atlas kind of looking guys. And I'm sure, whatever they were saying to them, they were listening. Because according to this, they were able to talk them into the bed. Let's see what happens after this. And their leader, this is the fallen one, Shamzuza, said to them, I feared that you may have perhaps be indisposed to the performance of this enterprise, and that I alone shall suffer the grievous crime. But they all answered him, said, what? We all swear and bind ourselves to mutual execrations. It means they know they were going to be cursed for doing what they were doing. They knew that they had no authority by Abba Yah to come down here and lay up with women. But they did it anyway. And they brought about curse on themselves, but they also brought about curses on man, the original men, at least on our women. Because watch what happens after this, brothers and sisters. Verse 6. And they said, and let's bind ourselves to mutual excursions, again, curse, that we will not change our intention, but execute our projected undertaking. In other words, they were determined to do it. He said, come on, let's all get confederate together. Let's all agree. Even though we know this is wicked, even though we know this is evil, just like the church, religion. If you think for 1 second that they don't know that we are Israel, brothers and sisters, think again. But they're in confederate to keep the lie going because it's advantageous for them to do so. Oh, and they're getting paid off to do it as well. Tax-free collections. And who knows what else. Verse 7. And then they all swore together and bound themselves by mutual curses that their whole number was 200 who descended upon Artist, which is in the top of Mount Hermon. Now, Artist, they descended upon Artist, right? Now, Artist is another mythological entity. As a matter of fact, I looked it up. This is what it says about Artist. Artist is the name that derives from the Old Norse name Ardis, composed of 2 elements. The first element, this Artist entity, is a woman, virgin, can we say Mary, and others. A female deity, goddess, virtuous woman, holy one, wise woman. And in turn, the name means the goddess of eagles. Okay? And the eagle is a symbol of strength and of death. Now, what country or countries you know have an eagle as their symbol? Can you say most Western countries? Heathen? The symbol of death is what they pledge allegiance to. And in mythology, the eagle was also the image of the battlefield, for it often ate dead bodies, and it is one of the birds of Odin, A-D-I-N, Odin, right? And who is Odin? I got it in my notes. Oh, I guess easy enough. The god of death. So this is, and then Mount Hermon, if you see the second part of this, for the record, where is Mount Hermon located? Guess what, brothers? In Israel. And guess what else on Mount Hermon? Right now to this very day, to show you that our book is true, on Mount Hermon, there are buildings or temple buildings on top of Mount Hermon right now. You can look it up to the gods. They're temple buildings to the gods on Mount Hermon right now. Where is it? Israel. Where's our origin, our people origin? Right in that era. Where did these angels come down and take advantage of our women? Right there. Let's continue on. And that mountain therefore was called Hermon, because they had sworn upon it and bound themselves by mutual curses against as their eagle, or the woman goddess as their deity, the goddess of death. Verse 9. And the names of the chiefs was Semiraziah, who was their leader. And brothers and sisters, I'm about to mess this up. Brother Jonathan read this for us the other night. He did much better than I'm going to do, but I'm going to give it the old college try, as they say. But the other names were Yukabermel, Akabiel, Tamiel, Ramuel, Daniel, Echiel, Saracanal, Azarel, Almas, Betrael, Ani, Zabi, Samsaviel, Erthiel, Toriel, Yamiel, and Raziel. And these were the perfects of the 200 angels and the remainder of them all. So 18 of them were their leaders of that 200 that got in confederate. Like, think about it. Did not David talk about the confederate, how the wicked nations, all of the earth, all the nations got together? And how you say, boy, confederate took counsel on how to destroy our people. Now I want you to draw that line. See that how you said, as the old saying, the apple don't fall far from the tree. Because see, the ones who David was talking about, many of these are the offspring of these, the fallen. Why do you think they despise us so much? Why do you think they want to emulate us so much? Well, it's beyond jealousy. That's low-level thinking, jealousy. No, they understand the promise that Yahuah has made to us and the curse that's already in store for them. Because they violated a long time ago to their forefathers. Yeah, the 200 angels who came down on this earth and had sex with the daughters of man. Let's go a little bit farther here. And then they took, verse 10, and then they took women, each choosing for himself, whom they began to approach, and with whom they cohabited, teaching them sorcery, incantations, and the dividing of roots and trees. Let's break that down. So they took women, and they cohabited with women. And right now, if you look through television, there are many agendas that they're pushing. Right? Transgenderism, they're pushing. Surely, homosexuality, they're pushing. Encouraging, our women, to sacrifice their babies if they don't want to have them. What else are they pushing? Intermarriage. Yes. Look. Racial intermarriage. And if you notice, 9 times out of 10, when you see a racial couple, is one of those other nations but an Israelite, man or woman. Why you think that is? Again, as I say, the apple don't fall too far from the tree. And because some of our people are so, deprived of what they believe is, their best life now, or they feel deprived because they're not living their best life now, many of our sisters have compromised themselves by saying, you know what? I think I want to be with one of them. And they think it's something special, and quite frankly, no, it isn't, brothers and sisters. And the only reason I say compromise yourself, sisters, is because Yahuah did not have that for you. Those were accursed who came down here and took advantage of you. Because they were very talented, very successful. They had a lot of power, money, and influence. And what did they begin to do when they got our women under control? In other words, enamored with them, loving towards them, open towards them. They thought to teach them dark magic, sorcery. Just read it. And what is sorcery? The ability to influence someone else by powers from yourself. To influence the way they think, to influence what they will do. Definitely influence what they desire. And he taught our women this. They taught our women how to use bracelets and beads and things of that nature too, I might add. But go look up sorcery. I'll give it to you right here. I looked it up. It says the using of bodies to cast spells on men, or using other sorcerers. What would be the easiest way to say this, brothers and sisters? I guess manipulation. Oh, and let me be clear, it's not just the women who does it now, because that stuff got passed off to their sons too. You take a man and, and if he's going to a place, he knows it's going to be single women. He wants to pick up a woman. What he's going to do, he's going to put on some fine clothing, expensive clothing if he can afford it. He's going to go get his little, face all sharped up and got a beard all shaped up. And he's going to get him some nice cologne and put it on his body. And then he's going to go out there. And he knows that women are going to look at him. And what they're going to do, they're going to smell and see success before he even opens his mouth. Sorcery. I know we don't want to call it that, but that is what it is. Anytime you could do something with your body and influence someone else's mindset, that's a form of sorcery. And they taught our women how to do that. If you go down and look at chapter 8, I can give you some insight right there. Let's drop down into it. We're going to come back. I know we start right here at sword. We're going to talk about incantations, and we're going to talk about the dividing of roots and trees. But come down here to chapter 8 real quick. I know we're studying 7. We didn't study 8 on the Bible study, but we're going to hit 8 right now. But look what 8 says. Moreover, Azael, right? He was one of the leaders, one of those 18, taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates and the fabrication of mirrors and the workmanship of bracelets, ornaments, the use of paint, the beautifying of the eyebrows, stones of every value, select kindness, diamonds, rubies, pearls, and all sorts of dyes, so that the world became altered. Impiety increased. In other words, they started to be rebellious towards Abba. Fornication multiplied, means started serving other Elohims. And then they transgressed and corrupted all of their ways. And then Amazarach taught them all sorcery. And again, the dividing of roots. And if you think that this was to our advantage, brothers and sisters, if you go over to the book of Isaiah chapter 3, it's going to describe all of these artifacts that our women were using to beautify themselves. And when it says it taught men, it's talking about mankind, not males. But eventually, men were able to do these things without question. The sons of those women. To our own demise, I might add. Those things were not for us. We weren't supposed to embrace those things. If Abba had wanted us with those things, he would have taught Adam and Adam's ancestry all those things, if that's what he had wanted for his people. Our people were enticed into this or taught this through seduction. Seduction. And altered themselves. And now all of a sudden they became something other than what Abba intended them to be. And we're going to look at that. We're going to go to Isaiah chapter 3. But I want to give you something to compare and contrast, so when we go there, you have an idea of what your brother is talking about. Let's go back to 10. They taught them incantations. What is incantations? It's charms. Beads, bracelets, all kind of little, artifacts. Crosses, stars of David, and whatever it is, anything that can be considered a charm, necklaces, charms, things that they look at for mood swings, things they look at, to worship, idolize, including candles, burning of sage. That was taught. That was not natural to Israel. That was taught to us. These things that I'm talking about right now. Or the things that Enoch, better said, is talking about as I'm sharing right now. And then what was the third one? The dividing of roots and trees. And what is that? If you look at, that is like tarot card readings, Ouija boards, all kind of things that they would use, voodoo, using bones and things like that, to conjure up spirits, to conjure up good luck. A lot of stuff that they use in some of the, what they call these Eastern religions, through yoga and other forms. Those trinkets and different things that they use. Many of you have it in your homes. Some of you got it on your bodies. Oh, and let me add, I know some of you are not going to like this, and some of us are all guilty of it. Me too. Tattoos. Tattoos. Cutting of the skin, marking of the skin. It goes against our Torah. And you see more people tattooed now than ever before. Now, compare that to what we read about in the last days or times of trouble that were never ever before, as we read over in Daniel a little while ago. Daniel chapter 12. And then the picture should be starting to come a little clearer to you right now, brothers and sisters. At least I hope it is. Or what's going on here. So when they talk about dividing of roots and trees, that's what it's talking about. Marking our bodies, again, using, all kind of different type of mind control, using meditation, that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about meditating on the word. I'm talking about other kind of meditations. A lot of it going on again in yoga. You see these people, yoga is the new hot thing all of a sudden. And you see them with their legs folded and arm folded, or contortions, all kind of body contortions and stuff. And they're chanting. And we just think, it's innocent. It is not. It's conjuring. They're conjuring up energy. And it's not energy from Abba Yah. So if you've been doing that, time to stop. Including the markings of your body as well. If you did it out of ignorance, then Abba Yah knows that. You continue doing it, that's something totally different. If you can fix it, then Abba Yah expects you to fix it. If it's something you can correct, like get rid of all stuff. Well, I bought a lot of stuff, Brother DFG. What did I do? Get rid of it. Think I can just give it away? No, I would just destroy it. I wouldn't be guilty of giving it to somebody else. What about selling it? To who? The heathens? I don't think you should have it in your possession long enough to wait on somebody to buy it. I think you need to get rid of it immediately. Probably doing all kinds of things in your life. Could be affecting your health, your mind, your children's health, your success, your relationship with Abba Yah. You're coming out of, the darkness of religion into the light of the truth. All those things could be hindering you, brothers and sisters. Men, you too. Consider. And let's go on, verse 11. And the women conceiving, meaning having babies, brought forth giants, and they bore to them 3 races first. The great giants, the giants brought forth Nephilims, and the Nephilims brought forth the Elods, the Elods. And they existed, increasing in power according to their greatness, whose stature, get this, brothers and sisters, was 300 cubits. And these devoured all the labor of men until it became impossible to feed them. And 300 cubits, just so you know, in height, brothers and sisters, that is 510 feet. If I looked that up correctly. 510 feet. And those were there. They weren't born giants. When they came into birth, they just started growing fast, eating up anything they could get their hands on. They were hungry that could never be quenched, and that's why they kept on growing, like tall redwood trees. Do you remember up in the book of Numbers where he talked about, I think it's Numbers chapter 13, verse 32 and 33? Remember when the 12 spies went over to the land of milk and honey, Jordan, to spy the land out? Remember the report that they came back with? He said, yeah, everything that Abba Yah said as far as milk and honey is there. But there are also giants over there. And those giants over there, they eat the inhabitants of the land. And we be as grasshoppers in comparison, and they're in comparison to us, make us look like grasshoppers. Now, see, a lot of our brothers and sisters thought that was a metaphor. Talk about in the book of Numbers. Because we were taught that all the giants were done away with during the flood. Well, if they were done away with, then why were our brothers and sisters talking about they were the size of a grasshopper standing next to these men? And women, I'm sure. And what he said, they were like grasshoppers. A grasshopper is about that big. Think about 510 foot. If you're a 5-foot woman or a 6-foot man, I want you to visualize right now what is 100 feet taller than you. Then 200 feet taller than you. Then 300 feet taller than you. And I'm going to use my hand as a measurement. In this page, 400 feet. 500 feet. You're going to be the size of a grasshopper. In comparison. But we were told they were all killed and destroyed or locked up. That is not true. If you go back and you study the book, 10% of them were left. They didn't destroy them. They left some. And then they multiplied and started doing the same thing again. And why you think our book says that we don't intermarry with certain other groups of people unless they be Israel? Why? Because they will have us serving their Elohims. He said so. They will be very influential. They will use their ability to create sorcery, to entice us into these situations, what makes us look like we're benefiting, but we're not. They're benefiting. Because why? They have Abba Yah's jewelry, his possession, under their control. And they love it. They like it, I love it, I want more of it. That's their mentality. And unfortunately, many of our people are allured to them because of what they believe these people can do for them. No different than we read here. Nothing new under the sun. Go back, Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 9. Nothing new under the sun. And again, let me be crystal clear. I'm not just talking about the European heathens. There are other heathens too. The European one is a distinct one in and of itself. And if you've been a part of our Bible study, you go back a few messages, you'll hear that a breakdown in that in Enoch 105 on who they are. White skin, red blood. You can see right through them. And where they came from. But there are also others among us who are heathen. That are, again, teaching our people, to believe in these unks and all these other things. Kemet. All of that type of stuff. All the mystical religions. The ancient religions. Those things are not for us, Israel. We don't win doing that. The people who are teaching us that stuff are not winning, most of them. Especially those who are in Africa. Is not Africa one of the poorest nations on the earth? Well, how can they be the people of knowledge in a situation like that unless they're being judged? And they are. You go to the book of Joel. Watch this. I'm going to come back. Because this is for some of my brothers and sisters who really think that somehow or another we're missing out on something because we're not doing these African religions, because brothers, we all from Africa. No, we're not. We passed through Africa. Israel's not African. I'm just telling you. We're not African. We're not Hamites, Canaanites. We're Israelites. From the tribe of, 12 tribes of Jacob. We're not them. Why do you think they were selling, us into slavery to the Arabs and then later on to the Europeans? They weren't selling other Africans. They were selling Israelites. That's the lie they want you to believe. And those of us like the Don Lemons of the world who are ignorant and let somebody tell them that, but he doesn't know anything about history, know himself who he is. He surely doesn't know he is. He thinks he's a female. But because they don't know anything about who they are, they over there talking, letting the heathens tell you Africans were selling Africans. So how could y'all complain about slavery when y'all were selling each other? No, we were not. Those Canaanites, Hamites, and other ites, whatever they were over there, were selling Israelites into slavery. You go ask them, they'll tell you they never sold their people into no chattel slavery. Did they have slaves amongst their tribes? Yeah, but that was another form. That was more like indentured servitude. But it was not chattel slavery. Raping and murdering and killing and separating children from their parents and you know what I'm saying, and raping the men, all kinds of, they weren't doing all of that wickedness. They were doing some wicked stuff, but not to the degree. You know what I'm saying? In their form of warring, and where they would take, prisoners of war. There was something totally different, brothers and sisters. Again, I don't have the time right now to get into all of that, but I'm telling you, they weren't selling Africans, they were selling us. The same hostile that people of Africa who hated us when we were in their captivity in Egypt for 400 years, who were making our sons gator bait. Yeah, gator bait, throwing our sons into their rivers. Just as they were doing in, the southern parts of these United States. Same behavior. Heathens doing what heathens do. Melanated and non-melanated heathens. But look at Amos here. Not Amos, Joel. Sorry, brothers and sisters. Did I say? The book of Joel. Look at this. And I'm going to just jump right down. Joel chapter 3. And look at where it says verse 19. Joel chapter 3. The book of Joel. Chapter 3. Look what it reads here, brothers and sisters. And it shall come, verse 18. It shall come to pass in that day, the mountains shall drop down the new wine, and the hills shall flow with milk, and the rivers of Judah shall flow with waters, and the fountains shall come forth out of the house of Yahuah, and shall the waters in the valley of Shittim. All right. And then go verse 19. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolation wilderness for the violence against the children of Judah, us. So it's not just the Edomites. It says Egyptians too, or those on that part of Africa. Them too. He said they both, what he said again? Let me read 19 again. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be Edom, shall be a desolation wilderness for the violence against who? The children of Judah, talking about those of us who they sold in that Atlantic slave trade. Those of us who went through the Cape Verde, all through the Virgin Islands, all through Cuba, Dominican, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Trinidad, St. Lucia, Jamaica, St. Thomas. All of those islands that they came through. All the way up here, again, across to Brazil, and then upwardly into North America. Yah's going to judge them for what they did to us. In particular to us who are of the tribe of Judah. Because we got the worst of them, of the punishment. Yeah, the rest of our people were part of colonialism, and they were treating them harsh. No question about it. But they weren't tearing them away from their families. They weren't setting them on fire, castrating them, making them eat abominable meats and foods, raping their men, raping their women. They weren't doing that stuff, at least not to the degree that they were doing it to Judah. And they think Abba Yah forgot about, this wickedness. And much, much more. Again, this evil, medical science progress evil. Y'all hadn't forgotten a thing. And that's why I say if you around here hanging out with them, you better be watching, you better be careful, because when that sling blade comes down, it's gonna chop off everything in its path. And if you're sitting over there, Judah, strongly advise you, don't forget to duck. Verse 20. It says what? but Judah shall dwell forever in Jerusalem for generations and generations. That's Israel. For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for Yahuah dwells in Zion. He's not going to forget what they did to us, brothers and sisters. But we shouldn't forget either. How can Abiyah not forget their hatred and wickedness, but you got Israelites over there talking about forgiveness? What makes your mindset better than your Creator's mindset? He's going to take vengeance on them. But there are some of our people over there talking, oh no, love them. You love them. That's not for me to do. I wasn't taught to love my oppressors. Christianity taught that to our people. And I'm not a Christian. Love your enemies. Do good for those who spitefully, abuse and misuse you. Slaves slaves obey your masters. They obey those who have charge over you. For thus it is written, lies. Deuteronomy 17:15 said that we should not have anybody over us that's not of our brethren. Israel is supposed to be who we bow to, or not bow to, but that we honor, and respect as a relationship to their authority. Not some heathens. Now, I don't mean to, not saying this to offend anybody. If you get offended, then you're getting offended, and you shouldn't get offended. You should just stop for a moment and ask yourself the question. Have they shown in their behaviors any repentance for what they have done? And the answer is no, even if you think it's yes, because if they had, Abiyah wouldn't be judging them so severely. He said he's going to give them double for their trouble. And as a matter of fact, Abiyah going to judge them so harshly, none of them are going to be anything more in the next life than a servant to Israel. Now that's book. That sound somewhat, I don't know. Look, I studied the history of them. I know what they're capable of doing, and I see what they're still doing. I haven't forgotten about Tasha Anna, Jefferson. I haven't forgotten about Sandra Bland. I haven't forgotten about Trayvon Martin or Michael Brown or Freddie Gray, Tamir Rice, Philando Castile, Walter Scott, and I can go on and on and on. But our own brothers and sisters want to tell us, oh no, all of them are not bad. How do you know that? How do you know that? What are you basing that on? How they treated your people or how they treating you? Enough said about that. Let's go on here. Verse 13. Then they turned, talking about the giants, turned themselves against men in order to eat them, and began to injure birds, beasts, reptiles, fish, to eat one another's flesh and to drink their blood. Now, where you heard that before? Eating somebody's flesh and drinking somebody's blood. Do this in remembrance of me, right? When you do this, you take this is remembrance. You know how this thing go? When you eat the bread, remember you're eating my flesh, and when you drink the blood, you drink the wine, it's my blood. Where you heard that at? Come on, think. Come on, think. Come on. Well, you taught that where it says in a communion, we're eating somebody's body and then we're drinking somebody's blood, symbolizing eternity. Where you hear that at? To remember somebody. Well, strange, or maybe not, that this is what the fallen angels' children were doing. What it says? Eating one another's flesh and to drink their blood. That's that complicated unless you want it to be. And again, let's go look at Numbers real quick. I hope you got your pen. You know you got to follow along with your brother. Let's go to Numbers chapter 33 in the Torah. See, I told you, when we study, brothers and sisters, we studied the Tanakh, we studied the Torah, and we study in the Apocryphal books. We've done that just in this little time we've been together. All three. Tanakh, Torah, and Apocryphal books. So let's go to Numbers. Chapter 13. I'm going to start reading at verse 32. And then we'll come back to the injuring those birds. There's something to that. I'm talking what we read over a moment ago. We're coming back. We're almost done, but we're going to go back. Numbers chapter 13, verse 32. And then they brought an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search, it is a land that eats up the inhabitants thereof. Is that not what these giants were doing over here? Right? Again, look at verse 13. When they had turned against men in order to eat them. And then over here in Numbers, same thing. One is pre-flood, the other is post-flood. They are still here, brothers and sisters. I would wager to believe, not wager, but I wouldn't bet against this, that down in Antarctica is where they dwell. A place where no civilian is allowed to go unless you have some of the highest clearance known to mankind. They're hiding something down there, but they're about to release it. CERN was not, that whole cylinder, that hydro cylinder, they opened that up for a reason. But they've been there. Who do you think was teaching us all this technology? You think they forgot how to do it? Why you think all this artificial intelligence we're dealing with right now, just out of nowhere? Of course, they're lying and talking about this guy and that guy. It was all this. Yeah, right. Right. I know he did it in his garage. You can, if you believe that, that's old saying that there's some oceanfront property in Arizona that you can buy and see, the Pacific from your porch. And if you ever been to Arizona, you know that ain't not a possibility. But they lie. Verse 33, over in Numbers, still there. Verse 32, I'm sorry, let's go 32 one more time. 13 and 32, the Torah. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land which we have gone to search it, it is a land that eats up the inhabitants thereof, devours them, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. All of the people, this is men and women, we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw the Nephilim. The same Nephilim that we just mentioned in the book of Enoch. For those who want to say Enoch is some science fiction book. Here it is right here in the Torah, Nephilims. And this is in Moses' time, well after the time of Noah and the flood. Well after. Generations, I want to say maybe 400, if not more years after Noah's time, this is going on. No, it's more than that, probably 800 years. 800 to 1,000 years later, the Nephilims were still here. Where did they go? If they weren't destroyed in the flood, my question to any of my brothers is, well, where did they go? Or better yet, where are they hiding? That's a better question. What do you think? I just told you, I think Antarctica. I don't know what you think. My best guess is Antarctica. Since nobody can go there. It's a whole continent, none of us can go. Can't fly over it. Can't visit it. Can't vacation there. Hiding something. Verse 33. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Enoch, which come from the Nephilim. So these are the Nephilim that came from the Nephilims, which came from the fallen ones, the watchers. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers because they were, 500 feet tall. And so we were in their sight as grasshoppers. Nothing new under the sun. I said that at the beginning of the message. Ecclesiastes 1:9. There is nothing new under the sun. What was is, and what is was. Time is an illusion. I'm talking about in terms of how you measure it. This is an eternal process. With an end time, with a beginning time, and an end time. We're passing through it. Some to eternal life, and some to eternal shame and contempt, according to Daniel. Let's go back. Enoch 7:14. And they began to injure birds, beasts, reptiles, fish, and to eat one another's flesh and drink their blood. And then the earth reproved of the unrighteousness. Now you see what he's talking about, injuring birds? Come over, let's go over to the book of Jasher. See, now you should have your Cypher Bible by now. I know some of you say, I'm still working on it, Brother DFG. I understand, but I know things can be a little tight. But when you start getting your Cypher, don't forget to send a contribution to your brother, all right? I am working for you, for Abba Yah, all right? I need your help. Look at Jasher, chapter 61, verse 15. And Sespo went, and he saw, and behold, there was a large cage at the bottom of a mountain. Remember, we talked about mountains a moment ago. And there was a great stone there at the entrance of the cave. And Sespo split the stone, and he came into the cave, and he looked, and behold, a large animal was devouring the ox. So this was an animal that was eating an ox. Remember, these giants, they say injured birds. And they were not talking about injuring him like took a stone and broke his wing. Brother, they were talking about something totally different. This is what they were talking about to tell you right now. In the middle, talking about this beast that he saw. In the middle upward resembled a man, and the middle downward resembled an animal. And Sespo rose up against the animal and slew it or killed it with his swords. Half human, half animal. Think about the Baphomet, the goat, Baphomet. How is it? Does it not have human body and a goat's legs, but from the mid up, human, with a goat's head? See, we all thought that was just science fiction or just some symbol, something that they play around with. Brother, these people know. Maybe you don't know. Many of us didn't know. But did not Abba Yah say in the last days knowledge would be increased? That the sealed book would be opened again? So we could know about what's happening in Jasher and Enoch, about what goes on and what has happened on this flat earth? Who's who? Whose seed is human? Whose seed is of the fallen? Who has a soul? Who does not? The word of Abba Yah is true, brothers and sisters. Now let me wrap this thing up. Let's go over now. Remember what we talked about. If you go over here talking about what these demons, we talked about, all these fallen watchers. In chapter 8, we talked about the bracelets and ornaments in the use of paint and the beautifying of their eyebrows and every valuable and select kind of dyes and things like that. Right? And we say, who taught them this? They say Azael taught them these things, right? And we read this over here too. If you look over, let's go over to verse 10. I'm talking about Enoch 7 and 10. Then they took the women, each choosing from himself, who they began to approach, with whom they cohabited with, married up with, laying up with, teaching them sorcery, incantations, and the dividing of roots and trees, right? And then it goes on to say what? It taught them what? About, well, we just said that. And we talked about what sorcery is. We talked about what incantations are. And we also talked about dividing of roots and trees were. Now remember, they introduced all these things to our men and women, in particular our women. But the women taught it to their sons. And today, the sons look more like the women than the women look like women in many instances. But that, again, that's another message for another day and another time. But I think we all would agree something strange going on with the men. Not all of us, praise Yahuah. But some of our men are in a state of confusion about their identity, gender-wise. And we know it. But we won't belabor that. Not today. But go to the book of Isaiah. Remember, we talk about ornaments and things of that way, right? Just so we keep it, don't forget, all right? Isaiah chapter 3. And I'm going to start reading at verse 12. Okay? Isaiah chapter 3, verse 12. Now think about the women in relationship to these fallen ones. And again, this is not all of our women. Let me be clear here. They went into our women to reproduce something other than what our men were put here to reproduce with our women. This is not all of our women. Some of our sisters are pure blood Israelites, top to bottom. And if you got any kind of eye, you ought to be able to see that, brother. I don't have to tell you that. Who's that? Who's that? Other brothers, who it is? Ain't no woman like the one I got. Right? He was talking about how beautiful the woman was. Our women can be. But look what it says here, my brothers and sisters. It says, the book of Isaiah, chapter 3, starting at verse 12. And this is a judgment against our people. Last day judgment, just so you know what we're reading here. As for my women, children are their oppressors. That means our kids are running wild in these streets, and some of us are scared of our own children. Afraid of them. And they which leads you, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them, O my people. For they which lead you have caused you to err and destroy the way of your paths. In other words, the leaders who are pushing these agendas out here, they are teaching and pushing an agenda that is destined to fail. They're pushing an agenda that is destined to condemn. Many of our leaders are causing our women, children, and men to go in error with their customs, their traditions, their ways of life, their tolerance. They are leading us astray. Some of us. Those of you. Who are falling for their agendas. And there are many of them. Sorcery. Manipulation. And we talked about that already. Verse 13. Yahuah stands up to plead, and he stands to judge the people. So Abiyah is going to judge all this stuff. All this masculinity and feminism and all of those things. That sounds sweet. And maybe there's, for some particular people out here, maybe you see the logic and the necessity of it for yourself. But the question you got to ask yourself, does Abiyah see it the same way? Because it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what we think. Go back and read Proverbs 14 and 12. It says what? There's a way that's going to make sense to you. But that is a dangerous path for you to take. There's a way that's going to be logical to you. But again, that's a dangerous path for you to take. There's going to be a way that's going to be practical to you. Makes sense. Not enough whatever. Maybe you say it's not enough men. No good men. Whatever you think. But it's going to cause Abiyah to judge you harshly if you embrace that. I'm not talking about doing things that you got to do to survive, but it should not be a standard for yourself in which you live by. It should not be a code of ethics for yourself. If you're doing some things to survive because you have no other options, I'm sure Abiyah is looking at that. But if you embrace this as a lifestyle, you're putting yourself in grave danger. Let's go on. Verse 13. Yahuah stands up and he pleads and stands to judge his people. Yahuah will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people and the princes thereof. For he says, you have eaten up the vineyard, the spoil of the poor is in your houses. What do you mean that you beat my people to pieces and you grind the faces of the poor, says Adonai Yahuah Almighty. What do he say? What are you doing with all your resources and you're wasting them on materialism instead of looking out for your own people, those who have needs? Why are you looking at your people as though they're the heathen? Why are you looking at your people as through the eyes of the heathen, better say it, is what he's saying. He's saying, I didn't put you here for that. You're a nation of people, a called out nation of people. This is what he said, a set apart peoples. That's what he's saying to us, Israel. And someone has to bring this out and say this without some political, grandizing. Forget them idiots and fools with whatever the BS they're doing, in these governmental systems. I'm talking about grassroots love and respect and honor. I'm talking about where the rubber meets the road. I'm talking about us for us. Like-minded believers, understanding the necessity of one another. If one lose, we all lose. That mindset. Verse 16. Moreover, Yahuah says, because the daughters of Zion. I'm going to use words to help you better understand what he's saying, okay? And this is to those, if that old saying, if this ain't everybody, but if the shoe fits, then wear it. Better yet, if it's you, do something about it. Change it. I'm going to say that before we even get into this. All right? If you don't like this or you feel like this is not ascribed to you, then as long as it isn't ascribed to you, you're not living like this, then you're good. But self-examine to make sure that you're not. And if you need to make some adjustment because you have been, then stop. Adjust. All right? Let's go. Verse 16. Moreover, Yahuah says, because the daughters of Zion are high-minded, and they walk with stretched forward necks and wanton eyes. And wanton eyes means that they're constantly looking for attention. They're walking and mixing as they go, making a lot of noise. Busybodies. That's what it's talking about here. Tingling with their feet. Therefore, Elohim, Adonai, will strike their head. He will strike the head of the daughters. That's what he's saying. He's going to strike you. And he don't mean physically strike you. In other words, he's going to cause your body to fail you. Because it's under the curse. So go back and read Deuteronomy 28. Start reading at 15. When we reject Abba Yah's Torah and his commandments, he said all these things are going to happen to you. Constipation. Cancer, diabetes, blindness, delirium, self-doubt, depression, anxiety, afraid of your own people, and much, much more. Victimized everywhere you go. Wanting love, but not knowing how to find it or reciprocate it when you do. Judgments. He said, I'm going to discover your secret parts. He said he's going to tell your secrets. He's going to expose the secrets. Then we say over here, these demons taught women secrets. Now, Abba Yah said those same secrets that they taught our daughters, he's going to take those same secrets and he's going to reveal them to everybody. And then all of a sudden, your influence is not going to be there anymore, dear sister. Now, somebody needs to love you enough to tell you this, if the shoe fits. Well, I do. I'll tell you. If you hate the message, just remember, I'm only the messenger. But if you hate the message, just remember who the message came from. It didn't come from man. It Came from the creator of man. And you got to visit him one day, sister. And he's not going to look for your permission to visit with him. You will die. And you will visit the creator. The question you should be asking yourself, what do you want to hear him say to you? Because the ball is in your court. You do have some say right now. But after that, too late. Let's go a little farther. See, that's what he has to say here. And in that day, Adonai will take away the bravery of their tingling ornaments, all those things you heard about in Enoch chapter 8, about their feet and their calls, which is another word for sandals, shoes, tennis, etc. Tennis shoes. And their round turbans, that's all your hats, like crescent moons. All these things, your scarves, things you put on your head, caps, bonnets, crowns, whatever. The chains and bracelets, y'all know what that is. Long veils. The bonnets and the ornaments of the legs. Your headbands. And the tablets and the earrings. Someone said the tablets was talking about, your computers and stuff. I don't think he's talking about that. Tablets, look that up. Just so you know. I didn't look tablets up, so you might want to look that up and see exactly what it's talking about. Go beyond what they're going to tell you, like a tablets. There are multiple definitions for a lot of these words, brothers and sisters. So don't stop at the first definition you see. Search it out. The chains, the bracelet, verse 20, the bonnets, ornaments of the legs, headbands, tablets, and your earrings, the rings and the nose jewelry. And who like rings and nose jewelry more than our daughters? That's how we know we're the Israelites. And that little tequila, whatever that little nasty little wench was talking about. Remember, she was talking about she was using this particular chapter to disrespect the daughters of Zion some years ago. Now I heard her little wicked ass is falling apart. Praise Yahuah. Verse 23, the glasses and the fine jewelry, the hoods and the veils. And hood could be anything that covers you. It could be your coats, your jackets, your outfits. And it shall come to pass, instead of a perfume smell, there shall be an odor. Like you got some problem downstairs, that odor. And instead of a belt, a rent, so you instead of having a nice belt or something, you more or less, I guess you'll have a rag tied around your waist. This is the judgment for those who want to do their own way. Talking about the high-minded, the arrogant, those who reject Abba, those who love the heathens and practice the heathens' customs and religion, those who want to cohabit with them. This is who he's talking about. Oh, brother, that ain't me. And okay, we'll see. We're not at the end yet, are we? We're there, but it's not over yet. The show's not over with yet. What happens when he hit the door and you don't see him no more? Because trust me, when shit hits the fan, they going to do what they do. And that ain't going to include you, dear sister. Believe what you choose. And Abba ain't coming for your rescue either. He already told you what to do. Talking about those who know. And those who don't know, well, share this video with them so they know. That's the best help I can suggest to any of my brothers and sisters who are sitting in on this message. Share it with somebody else so they don't. Tell them go to minute 143. If you don't want them to hear the whole message, think it's too long for them, say, look, go to minute 140 and listen from there. At least you're giving them a chance, right? It says instead of a well set of hair, baldness. In other words, the sister's hair going to start falling out. Alopecia and all that stuff I know some of us, that's just a part of your genetics. The book says a part of judgment. Now, is everyone suffering with alopecia wicked? No. but we're still under the judgment. And he says when this judgment gets worse and severe, these are the things that you're going to start seeing happening to your bodies, or to those, if you're a male, those you love, including your own children. If you're out there called outside of Abba Yah's truth, still out here in these streets, loving this world and loving the things that this world is offering you, still practicing these heathen customs and traditions, serving their gods, whether they're African gods, or Asian gods, East Indian gods, or the European gods. This is what you're at risk to have happen to you and the women you love. Your men shall fall by the sword, and your mighty men in war. That final war is coming. Soon, too. Very soon. And our gates shall lament and mourn. In other words, he's saying they're going to be nothing but weeping and crying. Weeping and crying. Sorrow. Terrible sorrow. And as the daughter's going to be sitting there desolate on the ground. Nobody, no man. On their own. The heathen's going to run off and leave them. And your brethren, most of them, if they're not already unalived, they're going to be somewhere else where you can't reach them. Because they would have already understood the time was for them to gather together with their own kind, as he is telling us to do, and separate and prepare. Prepare and be prepared. Praise Yahuah. Brothers and sisters, that was the study. And again, as I share with my brothers, and I'll share this with you, brothers and sisters, don't take this word and just go off and go get aloof and go, chill out. What we really should be doing, brothers, is this. Let's go to Psalm chapter 1. See, whenever you're part of any kind of study, any kind of reading on your own, brothers and sisters, this should be something you always remember to do. Right? And I'm reading from Cyprus, so you know where I'm reading from. It said, blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands or hang out with sinners, nor sit in the seat of the scornful. I'm talking about hanging out with bitter people, or listening or partaking with bitter people. You got a lot of bitter people here on this earth, a lot of bitter people in Israel. Somebody did something to them and they just cannot help. They say they forgive, but they don't even know how to forgive. They're just bitter. He said, don't be with no bitter people. If everything coming out their mouth is bitter, 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 he said, look, don't hang out with them. Yeah, someone might be your family member. You just got to have to listen to them for a little while. Okay, yeah. But don't make a habit of it. He says, but the righteous man, the blessed man, he delights in the Torah of Yahuah. And in his Torah, he meditates day and night. You know what that means, meditating, brothers and sisters? I mean, when you hear it, turn it off and then go sit down, take your notes, do your, cross-referencing, write it, mark it up, reflect on it, think about it, and y'all willing, share it with somebody. I'm not talking about the video. I'm talking about what you learn. Call somebody. Call mama. Call daddy. Call sister-in-law. But don't be quiet about it. Let it come out. Bring it out. Cry aloud. And he goes on to say, if you do this, you shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of waters, brothers and sisters, that brings forth fruit in its season. I'm talking about if you meditate on Abba Yah's Torah. All right? If you delight means you're studying it. You're part of study groups that's studying the Torah, not some Christianity stuff. The Torah, the Tanakh. Well, in this instance, he's talking about the Torah. He said, you should be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. You're going to be mighty in your strength. That bring forth fruit in this season. That means somebody you love is going to come out because of you, is what it's saying. If you meditate, dedicate, reflect, and teach it. Grow in the knowledge is what it's saying. Then share it and plant seeds. And then Yah will cause it to grow in its season because of your work. As long as you're not sitting around doing nothing. Waiting means service. Waiting does not mean complacency. Brother Derek brought that up the other night. He said, wait is like a waitress. A waitress serves. If you're waiting on Abba Yah, that means you're doing the work that Abba Yah has subscribed or applied to you to be doing, and that's what you're supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to be just sitting around doing nothing. And I'm not talking about, when I say sitting around doing nothing, I mean you should be beyond your borders of your doors, is what it's saying here. Except you be handicapped. But if they had to take you to go get a checkup or something, that when that doggone, caregiver come, you give them an earful of Yahuah. He says that, and his leaf shall also never wither, means you're always going to have substance. And then whatever you do, whatever you set your hands to do, he says, you'll prosper. That's how important the Torah is, brothers and sisters. And this is Abba Yah. I'm giving this to you straight from the book. Israel, we're running out of time. These watchers are still here watching, brothers and sisters. Whatever they're doing with CERN, CERN, they have done that already. I know many of our people don't want to believe it, but why do you think you're getting all ladder, get everybody on a ladder with all these, what do you call these action adventure, movies? The Hunk, Thor, all these others. Why do you think they keep bringing all this stuff back to our mind? Because all these action heroes, comic book heroes that we read about as kids, they know these are their gods. These are the fallen ones with new identities. And they're preparing you for it. They're doing a soft sell to us, brothers and sisters. Artists imitating life. Why do you think they had all these zombie movies? And now all of a sudden you got a drug that they're giving people, turning them into what? Yeah, zombies. This is real, brothers and sisters. They know it's coming. Talking about the elite. The children of the fallen, they know it's coming too. They're just trying to distract you. Get you looking at their television programs. Get you looking at their social media programs. Get you performing in some of them, exposing yourself. Get you trusting them because of things they can give you that you could really have on your own if you just took some initiative to go and get it. All to seduce you with their sorcery or their incantations or their mixing of roots and trees. Now we have a glowing opportunity for you. All of us, we have a glowing opportunity to survive the storm to come. But the only way that's going to happen, brothers and sisters, we have to obey Abba Yah's Torah. We have to learn to love one another, and we need to keep his commandments. All of them that we're able to keep. And I'm talking about completely. Not some almost doing it. And if you're willing to do it, then you should be looking forward to the return of the judge of all judges, the king of all kings, Abba Yah, Yahuah. Brother DFG, got it done in one setting. What do you think about that, brothers and sisters? But I'll be back tomorrow, Yah willing, for our Shabbat lesson. All right? Thumb up the video. If you think it was informative. Share it if you see its relevance. And subscribe if you want to be notified when your brother's back again. DFG? Hey, Shabbat just started here. Shabbat Shalom. Bye now.